Does life actually get better? How do you come back/get better from being lonely and extremely depressed? How do you create meaningful relationships when you are so screwed up? Hey, people of Reddit, ever wondered if life really gets better? Or how to bounce back from being lonely and depressed? And seriously, creating meaningful connections when you're feeling all sorts of messed up. How does that even work? Well, get ready because we're diving into the real deal. We're talking about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. We'll dig into what it means to feel down in the dumps and figure out how to climb out of that hole. So before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Number 15. I don't know if life gets better or you get better. I've struggled with depression for most of my life. The thing is that my mental toils grow stronger with every other struggle I have to deal with. Summers used to make me extremely happy. Well, content is maybe a better word, because I could only be focused on work and making money. College was horrible because it took almost 6 years and the only thing I envisioned my diploma to be was a giant question mark instead of a marker of success. I was tired, angry, and overwhelmed for those 6 years. I thought about killing myself a couple of times because of all the strain. But I thought that if I killed myself, I wouldn't have known if I'd have finished school. But school was so difficult to complete. Your whole life you hear that a degree brings happiness and success. It doesn't, but school is done with. Do I have a career to show for it? A nice new car and a house? No, I have debt, but at the same time I'm carefree. So to answer your question, depression might not go away, but you will mature and things will get easier. But it's never truly gone. Number 14. You can't live a meaningful life in a day, but you can have a slightly better day at a time. Strive towards having a better day first. Start with one conversation, one relationship at a time. And give yourself time to grow and get results. Consistent effort is what it takes to be better. All true, and to add to that, the most important person to cultivate a respectful and meaningful relationship with is yourself. Recognize your mistakes but don't dwell on them. Be kind to yourself and treat yourself with the kindness that you want to treat others with. Only by practicing to be kind to yourself can you learn to be kind to others. Number 13. Go to therapy/counseling. The other suggestions are great, but I don't think these people understand what it's like to go through depression. You don't merely snap out of it by doing the things they suggested. Find a good therapist, and if you cannot afford one, look for support groups of others who are also experiencing depression and talk about your struggles with them. Mental health counseling, along with the things the others have mentioned, will go a long way. Number 12. I'll tell you about myself and you are free to draw your conclusions. I have major childhood trauma, verbal and emotionally abusive parents. Mainly father. Things went south even before I was born. Mom had anxiety when she was pregnant with me. Parents got divorced, money was sparse, health got shit. Got depressed, very anxious, and struggled like a pig. Then I started working. I saved money. And here's the most important thing you need to do. I got a good therapist and worked on myself like crazy. It was exhausting and overwhelming. I worked on myself, my relationships, my habits, my very personality. It is so important to get a good therapist. They may be expensive, this one was, but she was the best thing I've done for myself. And since then, the anxiety is down. My relationships are so much better. I'm better. But all the trauma and shit show of 25 years doesn't go away in 15 therapy sessions. But I'm much better equipped to deal with things now. We are still not rich, we still struggle. But we have finally arrested the decline. You will too. Number 11. You find yourself someone or something that makes you happy. I can be a partner or a simple pet. Maybe a leopard gecko or a cat. Everything that lives longer than 10 years might not be that bad. Find someone to talk to or hang out. He or she doesn't need to be in a relationship, just someone who is open and can listen to you and that you trust. For me, that would be the gaming buddies I met while playing, but if you are alone and very shy, I recommend maybe a pet. Leopard geckos are cheap and low maintenance. Of course, there are a lot of others, but a pet that you can take in your hand, pet, and talk to works wonders and will build confidence. Important is that you aren't alone. For me at least, loneliness is the worst thing because my depression starts really kicking through then. Maybe this helped. Maybe not. It's just what I did, and it helps a lot. Number 10. Think of yourself like a car. A car needs oil, gas, brake fluid, transmission fluid, coolant, good tires, etc. Your body needs 26 vitamins and minerals to 100% of your daily value, ample protein and essential fatty acids plus fiber. It needs daily exercise to rebuild and maintain itself. It needs to be in a good environment to keep in condition. Can a car drive when all its fluids are half level? Yes, but it will struggle, overheat, break down faster, etc. Likewise, you can survive with half of your needs, but you will struggle and break down faster than you should. Once you satisfy the basics, then you can focus harder on improving your financial and social situations. There's a reason people usually don't befriend bums on the corner. It's because they tend to weight us down with their problems. I have problems too. I can't take on the problems of a stranger. People won't want to befriend/date you if you can't manage your problems. It starts with yourself first. Self-talk, CBT. Diet/nutrition/exercise/health. Health before wealth, all forms of wealth. I call this the whirlwind approach. You start with what's closest to you and move outwards. In this case, you start with what's in you. You are nothing but a collection of nutrition, protein, fat, minerals, and vitamins bind you together. Exercise builds you and keeps you glued together. Your thoughts control everything you do in your version of reality. CBT. Your self-talk is everything. Medication can be useful. I consider it as a band-aid or crutch. These are good things. They help you heal. Some people need more than a band-aid or a crutch of. Medication will not cure you, but it can help you. You need to take action. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, in 95% of cases. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Einstein. Number 9. Everything in life is temporary. Good times, bad times, all temporary. But if you were happy, you would never think to yourself, wow, this happiness is going to last forever and will never change. When depressed, we have a tendency to think nothing will ever change. But this is the source of the depression. You need to abandon the narratives you created for yourself. You aren't some weirdo who is screwed up. Most people in your situation would likely become depressed. Hence why is endemic and suicide is the biggest killer of young men. You are just a normal person. You're not the problem. It's our sick, shitty world. You're just reacting appropriately to it. It will be changed for me when I start to view my depression and anxiety as non-narratively. They weren't a sign of weakness or failure. It was an underlying functional problem with my biology and thinking. It wasn't anything to be ashamed about. Indeed, it's not an emotion-inducing event. Depression, like all diseases, is morally neutral. Risk factors of depression aren't things like bad personality or boring or dumb. Risk factors for depression are things like lack of physical activity, poor diet, and genetics. None are statements about you as a person. It took years, but slowly I changed how I thought. I did some great cognitive behavioral therapy. I started to become aware of the thoughts that went through my head and aware of how those thoughts would trigger negative emotions. By simply observing and discarding those thoughts, I can stop tormenting myself. The biggest thing you can do is be kind to yourself. Give yourself a break. You're going through a really tough time. My rule when self-talking is never to say anything to me I wouldn't say to a friend. I am a friend to myself. I take care of myself. I don't tell myself I'm pathetic for this or that anymore. Another thing I really remember my therapist saying, act, don't feel. If you wait until you feel like going out to a coffee shop, you will never go. The act of going is what will make you feel better. Lack of activity is strongly linked to depression. It's why anxiety often leads to depression. Your brain wants to act, but you are too afraid. So you do nothing. And that act of thinking about doing something and then not doing it sends bad signals. Humans want to be free and have agency. It's a long road, but you need to learn to love yourself. You're worth it. We all are. We're not weak because of this shit. And one day this rough patch in life will become your armor. Every time life gets rough, I remind myself it's a cakewalk compared to the shit I've been through. Literally, nothing can hurt me anymore, really. Number 8. Relationships happen because you have a life to share. So don't go looking for it. Build a life for yourself first. Self-improvement. Exercise, nutrition. Eat a plant or pet and bond with it so you have some form of responsibility and a reason to become more disciplined. Once you've sorted out the basics, find what would make you happy or proud of yourself and actively chase down that dream. Sometimes it helps to remember that you could put yourself in an absolute hell if you let things deteriorate. So spend a bit of time contemplating how easily things could get way worse if you did nothing. Just don't ever forget. You have something to contribute to life. Even if others cannot or do not appreciate what you are doing. Every small step helps. Give it time. As a last piece of advice, do a year of yes. If someone asks you to do something and you cannot immediately think of a proper argument to say no, say yes and go do it. Number 7. I've been living with severe clinical depression. I could claim disability if I needed to for almost 30 years now. 2 more and I can celebrate my first clinical diagnosis. Therapy and medication. Sure, exercise and eating healthy help, but they don't help like people who were once sad and then went outside think they do. They can take you from a 2 to 2.5. They can't heal you. Therapy and medication are where you'll get your help. You need to learn how to think and also get the right meds to fix your brain chemistry. Medications are also not an exact science. Some may work in the short term, others may not seem to help at all until one day they do. Keep an open line of communication with your mental health provider as they may need to adjust dosage. Number 6. This is a question to answer and I really wish there was a simple solution, but the reality is that everyone's mental issues are subtly different. Mental illness doesn't group as nicely as physical illness. My wife and her sister both suffer from generalized anxiety disorder, but one has a bit more OCD rolled in and the other has a bit more depression. What works for one person's depression might not work for your depression. Main things you need to know and keep telling yourself. It is not your fault. It is not a weakness in your personality. You are not screwed up. You have a medical condition that negatively affects your brain. It is simply that we do not understand enough about how the brain works to be able to say exactly what is wrong. It will go and it will come back, but you can change this pattern. You can make improvements. Number 5. I've been seeing the same therapist since I was 19. I'm now 36. My case will be different from yours, but I figure I should share that different stages of life will make you think about different things, and leave you wanting to reason out if you can handle the challenges life throws at you. I've never been extremely depressed, but I've had suicidal thoughts or at the very least felt like my life wasn't worth it. It's taken this long for me to realize that, even if I have those feelings, there's nothing stopping me from rejecting them and forging a path for myself with other things. To be fair, I still don't know if life actually get better. In some ways, I think it will, or in my case it has. But in some ways, it may not. I just want to get past my days well enough to see the following day through and find happiness where I can. Also, it took some time to get me on the right meds for me to stop overthinking about everything. My first meds made me drowsy all the time, but then we just made adjustments. So from once-a-week sessions 17 years ago, I basically visit my therapist now every 2 or 3 months for life coaching, or as needed if there's some major stressor, and ask for advice to help me broaden my worldview. That said, if you ever feel the need to talk or want someone to rant to, I can always offer some kind words. Number 4. Some days are better than others. I have good days and bad days and a lot of mixed days. It's a struggle, but like riding a bike, it takes time, you fall down. Finding friends in today's society can be really hard. That said, start in places where talking with others is encouraged. Creating meaningful relationships is a two-way street, but in general, it's a lot of stumbling around getting to know each other and finding your comfort zone. Number 3. For me personally, fixing habits/changing routines doesn't work really. I find that I can do things I would usually enjoy, but don't enjoy in a depressive episode, and that doesn't help, or I just don't have the energy to do them. I think most people say to do things like that as that's what you do when already coming out of an episode to start re-enjoying old activities, but that alone isn't enough to bring you out. It just happens when you're coming out. My advice is antidepressants and therapy and trying to eliminate your main cause of stress. If that's not possible, then at least antidepressants and therapy, as they can help you greatly to get through some of the issues and stresses that have triggered the episode. Number 2. It's really difficult to give you any kind of valuable piece of advice or opinion, given how little information you gave us. If you are extremely depressed, then, despite what other Redditors wrote, I don't think exercise, proper diet, and stop thinking negatively is going to help you very much, even though exercise, diet, and thinking patterns are proven to impact our mood. I would assume it might be frustrating listening to such superficial advices if you're seriously depressed. Proper medication and therapy is what you need. Chances are it will get better, but it's not going to happen overnight. Also, being depressed doesn't mean you're incapable of being in a relationship. Number 1. In 2008, I lost my job. All I could get right away was McDonald's, so I took it, but it wasn't enough to pay all my bills. My car was repossessed, I got kicked out of my apartment, and I found out my girlfriend was cheating on me all within the space of a month or so. It was the lowest period of my life. I struggled with depression and considered suicide. It just wasn't a good time. I was homeless, but I had good friends who gave me a place to stay, so I was never actually on the streets. It took a while, but today I have a good job. I apprenticed in the tool and die trade, and I make good money for a guy who barely graduated high school and never went to college. I'm married, and my home life is stable. It's not perfect. Life never is, but I'm far better than I was. I hope everyone in this thread who is struggling is able to find a way to better days as well. I'm glad so many people found this inspiring. Thanks for joining us on this ride. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. If you found this exploration helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insightful content. And hey, share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your experiences and what resonated with you. Stay resilient, keep connecting, take care, and see you soon.